Personal pages on LinkedIn do better than corporate ones.
You've been having a lot of success with LinkedIn posting. Tell us a little bit about your strategy and what you're doing, what's working, what's not working.
So at a minimum, you have to be talking to people about the actual product, not the science behind it, even if the science is amazing.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the BYU Tech Transfer Podcast. Today, me and Dave Brown are sitting down. We're going to talk through a little bit of kind of our social media strategy lately, as well as marketing in tech transfer. So, Dave, you've been having a lot of success with LinkedIn posting. I've been having some limited success with LinkedIn posting. Tell us a little bit about your strategy and what you're doing, what's working, what's not working. What have you learned over the last year and a half or so?
Okay, yeah. So our goal for the last year and a half, longer, for the last 2 years, has been to create a social media platform where we can just present a technology and then connect to the right entrepreneurs who will license it and take it out.
Yes.
And so I've got to say, lately we feel like we're pretty much there, but primarily on LinkedIn. We continue to do this podcast. It's useful and it's part of the process. But where we're at right now is if we post a technology on LinkedIn, I do like one a week, we'll say.
Right.
Then typically we'll have, I don't know, at least a few, say 3 or 4 credible, legitimately interested parties trying to license it.
Yes. And I would say on the low end, it's 2 or 3, but on the high end, we've seen as many as 6, 7, 8, like truly interested, qualified parties reach out with interest.
Right. And you would probably add to that people who want to be end users who are like, I'm interested in this. I'm just not the entrepreneur to take it forward.
Yeah.
And so that's a great place to be. And, there's a question of how much we can scale that up. Like, how many posts a week would people tolerate from me on that sort of subject? But things that we've learned, let's see, it's a little bit, so consistency matters. Anyone will tell you on LinkedIn, post consistently, post things that have kind of the right attitude and feel to them. But you kind of just have to scattershot, put out content, just like we've done with the podcast, and then see what resonates with people and kind of narrow in on that. So where I'm at right now is per week, I'll post one technology that's available for license. And I'll post one success from BYU, a technology that made it, maybe a company exited or it just made it really big.
Right.
And then often there's a podcast episode that'll be one of the days on there too. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are the big posting days on LinkedIn.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's when I do that. And then everything else I would say is pretty experimental for me. I like to occasionally do a personal story. People want that because, for example, personal pages on LinkedIn do better than corporate ones.
Yes.
So we don't post from a tech transfer site.
Right? Like 2, 4, 5, 10 times as much sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it should be that way. Like when you're connected with people on LinkedIn, you see them in real life too, and you're a person, and so they want to hear from you. And so I'll do some personal things like that, and then just weekends feel like maybe I can post about BYU football or maybe something inspirational would be better for a Sunday afternoon.
Something that's not directly associated with tech transfer, but that still gets you a post and still get you in front of kind of your network and other people who might be interested in those things.
Yeah, and if something happens that we're really supportive of, some organization that's been great or is helping entrepreneurs, I'll probably repost that and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's great. And maybe taking a couple steps back to when we first started posting on LinkedIn, like we've talked about the podcast before, where when we first started doing the podcast, like nobody was willing to come on camera. We did just everything, just a voice recording and then posted that. And we got much more comfortable over time. I feel like, at least for me, LinkedIn was the same way, where you kind of have this perception of people who are posting on LinkedIn, and it's definitely a certain type of person. And then you tend to have strong feelings about that one way, whether good or bad, or, not a lot of people in the middle. But so becoming one of those people who posts on LinkedIn was really daunting to me personally. So I don't know, did you feel the same way, or was it a little bit more just utility and, I need to be doing this, so I need to figure it out one way or the other?
Yeah, I think I had been on LinkedIn for 13 years without posting anything, just to connect with people. And early on, it was more like just connect with people you actually work with.
Yes.
But then it's like doing the podcast. At first, our podcast episodes were audio only because neither you nor I nor anyone else wanted to be on video.
Right.
But then we did it a few times, and it's like, I guess I just look that way. That's fine. You know. And so you just get used to it. My voice sounds like that. It's okay.
You just get used to it. That's just how it is.
Exactly. And so with LinkedIn too, you just have to get used to that. And posting something, especially if you're bad at it, like when you're starting out, posting something business related just feels self-promotional and kind of weird. I don't feel that way about it at all now. I'm perfectly comfortable, and I like posting. I actually am really interested in it.
Yeah, especially when you have like a good idea and you're like excited. Okay, this is different enough for my normal post. I feel like it's going to have an impact. Let's see what that looks like. That can be exciting. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a little bit like each post is a little bit of lottery ticket too. Like you put your thing out there, and it's like, oh, maybe this will catch on. Maybe people will understand what I feel strongly about, right? And so there's Greg Eisenberg is a great follower on YouTube. He has a great podcast, and on LinkedIn he posts some good things. And he always says that on LinkedIn, success lies on the other side of Cringe Valley.
Yes.
It's really true. You have to be willing to. I wish I knew who, years ago, I heard someone say that the secret to success is being willing to embarrass yourself in public.
Yep.
And I'd always had this kind of dream of accomplishing everything I want to accomplish, but being completely anonymous about it.
Right. Nobody knows who you are. It's just objective success without any notoriety, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And some people do that. That is possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really, really hard.
Yes.
And for a lot of things we want to accomplish, especially in business, you've got to be out there in front of people. So, every once in a while, someone will think one of my posts is cheeseball or whatever, or make some comment.
Right.
But that's okay. At least we're talking about my post.
It's kind of the price of admission, right?
Yeah.
And if you're unwilling to pay that price to kind of get through the cringe valley, so to speak, then you never get on the other side where you're comfortable posting. You really are posting more in line with a strategy like you were talking about. Because I remember a lot of our early posts, it was just kind of like, I don't know what to post, right? So I'm just going to post something, an inspirational quote, or, here's just objective facts about a technology.
Yeah.
And we've really moved away from that and honed in on, like you said, like certain types of posts that do well on certain days, certain strategies on the weekends, and then more of and I want you to talk to me a little bit about this, but more of a storytelling approach to the technology, which I know not everybody's going to agree with that approach. But for us, I feel like it's been very successful to take an objectively good piece of intellectual property, good piece of tech, and then build a story around that resonates with people, post it, and then it resonates with the right people. And even if they're not the right people to license, they tend to tag or send it to people who are the right people to license and facilitate those conversations for us.
Yeah, and I learned this in business school. Like in my marketing class, they talked about how you need to use stories to teach. But then in LinkedIn, I had to learn it all over again.
Yes.
Like I guess it didn't sink in. But it's true. Like early on, we would talk about technologies like academics talk about technologies in university and say, isn't this cool that this can do this thing? And it's like, well, no one really cares about that. Not much.
Yes.
Experts in the field do, but otherwise, no. What people care about is products that could, or services that could affect their life. And so at a minimum, you have to be talking to people about the actual product, the end thing, not the science behind it, even if the science is amazing.
Right.
And so
and how it's going to affect them, right?
Yeah.
And the product in the terms of like, here's the problem in your life and here's how it fixes it. And how it does that is almost inconsequential, even though that's the piece that we have protected and that adds value to your company, right? So it's, I don't know, it can be very, not confusing, but different from your typical approach, especially if you come from a technical background where those technical details are the most interesting thing to you. But that's not what's going to resonate the most when you post on social media.
Yeah, and when you and I first hear about a technology, we're hearing about the technology, not the product.
Yes.
But a product is great because it implies a story.
Right.
Like any product, it doesn't matter what it is. Say it's a Big Mac. It's like, so I was in this state where I was hungry and needed something to eat. Then I got the Big Mac, and then I was super satisfied. Like that actually is a story. Like base situation, event happen, inciting action, and then resolution there.
Absolutely.
And so, so everything should be designed that way. What's great on with all the AI tools we have now and LinkedIn is in a very short passage, you can just tell a tight story. Right. I'm very proud of the BYU briefcase post I did a week ago that's doing quite well because the image on it is really good. The image is, it just shows the protagonist from the shoulder down, and it's a true story, holding the briefcase. Then you see this little kid looking up at it, and you see frantic mom in the background. So it's totally implying this story about this lost kid, finding this guy and trusting him for the reasons set forth in the story. And so a single image can tell a story really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of AI, let's talk about that a little bit more. I feel like early on in social media, like it was all about like pictures and, you had to be in the image. And AI, when it first came out, you could just post an AI image and people thought it was great, right? And people would, you'd get some traction because of that. But I feel like we've really honed in on utilizing AI to lower the barrier of entry of telling stories in a way that's engaging. Exactly like you pointed out, right? Creating an image that visually tells the story that you can then supplement, with all of your copy of exactly what you want it to say. But now you don't have to go hire a model and stage it and take the picture and edit it and do all those things. It's 30 seconds, right? Oh, that image doesn't look quite right. Let's adjust these things. Okay, now I've got the perfect image for this post. I mean, how have you utilized AI tools, when we started 2 years ago to now? What do you feel like that's looked like?
Yeah, so with your products, with our engineering products, I think we've done a good job of using AI. We can upload actual pictures of the product or the prototype and then have it create finished versions that, like we have one that was recent that it blows it apart into layers so you can see actually how the thing is made. That's amazing. And you can have a series of pictures that tell a story but also provide all the technical detail you need to provide. So that's really good. For my technology software, it's still a little hard. You can't just throw up lines of code, right? So you've got to tell the story. So you have to show people reacting to the story or being relieved of a pain point somehow. And last week's for EdTech Books, I did an image that did a good job of showing how this platform makes open source books available to students. It makes it cheaper for students. But and the results were good. We have interested parties. We'll license that one. But I actually could have done better. I should have focused on the pain point of the person who buys the product. It should have shown universities not wanting to develop their own platform and using our white label one instead.
Right.
That was the actual pain point.
Yeah.
So it was a miss, and it still worked out okay. But all of that is a rambling way to say that AI tools have made it easier to do this.
Absolutely.
If you're going to use them, especially for images, you just have to know that the first image is not right.
Yes.
You got to keep going. Like
Yes.
make 20 or 50 or 100, and then you'll have a good one in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can post 15 of the bad ones, and it's still
true.
okay. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned is that when you first start, you feel like every single post has to be just perfectly crafted,
Right.
and there can't be any errors or mistakes, and the message and the call to action all have to be perfect. You have to have a nice hook and a good body, and then the call to action at the end and an image that's perfect. And that's I'm not saying don't do that, right?
Sure.
Definitely do that as much as you can,
Yeah.
but the consistency that you talked about, right off the bat, is way more important than the specific post that you're having, right? Because
Yeah.
it is a little bit of a lottery ticket where you don't know which one is going to really, catch the public eye, or that's going to get picked up by the algorithm, or what it might be, right? Or even if, some specific error causes more people to engage with it, right? Because they
Right.
find something, goofy about the image, or it's
Yeah.
not quite right, or, people who will come on and correct you. Yeah, all that counts as engagement, and it can increase the reach. And, again, I'm rambling a little bit
Yeah.
now, but
No.
it all goes to say, like, put it out there, right? Get through Cringe Valley sooner than later. Don't agonize over your posts. Just post them. Make sure that there's some underlying intrinsic value to it, and then just see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and one thing you were citing there was intentional asymmetry. Like
Yeah.
maybe a problem in an image is intentional.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a way to identify whether you're a producer or a consumer. Like if you look at a post and something's wrong with the image or screwy, and you think, oh, they messed up, that's more consumer behavior. But
Yes.
if you think, I wonder if they did that to get people to comment, you're probably a producer. You've probably made some of these. And
Absolutely.
But what that goes to is you just need to have a strategy for anything you do. Like when we talk to people about patenting, we say, before you invest a ton of money in patenting, have a strategy. What will this patent
Yes.
do for you?
Yeah.
And the same is true for marketing, where it's like whatever you're putting up, what is the result you're trying to create? And or anything you do. If you hold an event, why are you holding the event? Like
Yeah.
what is the thing?
And I feel like we've had a really good kind of guiding star for the entire time, where the goal is to license more technology
Yeah.
from BYU, right?
Yeah.
And so if whatever we're doing isn't moving us closer to that end goal, we tend to abandon it or pivot into whatever is,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like LinkedIn for us right now, as far as outreach, has just been going really, really well for us.
Right.
So tell us about maybe some of your best performing posts that you've had, why you feel like they
Yeah.
performed well, and how that influences what you're going to do moving forward. Because you've had a couple that have done really, really well. I've had a few, 3,000-4,000 impressions, and that's good for me. But you've had several that were 50,000, 60,000 impressions, something around there.
Yeah, I think my top is like 176,000.
Which is
I think.
fantastic.
But the okay, so you have to think about what metrics matter to you. So a lot of impressions, that one was fun because it's an outlier.
Right.
And so most of my best ones at this point, I hope I laugh at this in a few years, but most of my best ones right now would be like 30 or 35,000 impressions.
Yeah.
And then, so I have that one outlier that's 176,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, that outlier was a just for fun post. And yeah, I gained some followers from it and whatever, but it didn't move the dial on the technology. It was just for fun.
Right.
Where some of the other ones that maybe have, well, there are some that might have 1,000 impressions, but they result in multiple inquiries about a technology.
Yes.
That's actually better.
Yeah.
So you have to think about what you want. If you do want to create one to go big, the best way to do that is to study other posts that have gone big. And I do. When I
absolutely.
see one that has 1,000 thumbs up or something, I'm like, okay, what are they doing here? Should I try that? And so my big outlier one, someone had posted about how they had a post get over 1 million views or something.
Right.
So they talked about that post. So I put that in ChatGPT and I said, what would be like 20 analogous ideas for tech transfer? And so it generated a bunch of ideas. And, some of them were good and some weren't, mostly
Right.
not. But one of them was kind of funny to me. So I said, okay, this is kind of funny. Generate 10 variations of this. And then I had to draft the post. And something about the delivery was just not funny. I was like, no, that's not it. Be a little drier or whatever. And we went. And finally, I got it down to a short post that was quite funny to me. It was timely. It was about firing all your AI employees and hiring
That's right.
interns to
That's
replace
right.
them. Because every other post, there are all these truly cringy posts on LinkedIn and X.com where people are saying, we fired 20 humans and it's great because we're using AI. And it's like, okay, the reader doesn't think that's great,
Right.
And so this was kind of doing the opposite. And so it got a lot of reposts and engagement. And that's fun. And I think it's worth mocking a trend that's kind of missing.
It's kind of a trend in and of itself on social media, right? Where you take something that is trending and then you mock it in a very specific way that's niche to our particular industry that, people will, get a little chuckle at and get some engagement, and then it kind of blows up for you. And I thought your outline there of the workflow was super important for people to hear because it's easy to go to AI, throw in something, it'll spit something out, post it, and you move on with your day. Those are my least well-performing posts, right? And it does happen, because you only have so much time. But doing what you were talking about, where you put in maybe an idea and it generates some, talking points for you, and then you say, okay, this one seems reasonable, generate 10 additional ideas, and honing and crafting and a little bit of back and forth, and then giving it that human touch at the end, I think, is generally what has worked the best for us versus just throwing it into AI and then going with whatever it spits out first.
Oh, yeah. And so on LinkedIn, you can schedule your posts. So I have them currently scheduled out a couple of weeks.
Right.
And what I'll do is I'll schedule something, but then as you get closer to the day it's going to post, I'll do a screen grab of the full post, image and text. I'll put it in ChatGPT and say, how could I improve this? And so typically I'll do a couple or 3 more revisions before I actually go with something.
Yeah.
And so that's good. People complain about kind of AI slop. That's something people talk about a lot right now, and that's people just throwing up the first draft.
Yep.
And whatever AI prompts you with or whatever text it comes up with, you got to make it your own and rephrase things, make it sound like you. And it'll help you do that too if you want.
And I feel like people are getting better and better at identifying AI posts, right? And so, again, what maybe was groundbreaking a year and a half ago and just the amount of content that you could create was truly impressive is becoming much less impressive to kind of a general audience.
That's right.
But you did say something that I want to kind of circle back to about how some of your maybe, not overperforming posts, but, they did okay, a couple thousand impressions, but those are the ones that have gotten the most licensing inquiries. Yeah. And from my own experience, you had posted about a piece of technology, and then I had followed up on that post, just recording myself, walking along a stream, talking about it. And from my follow-up to your post, it only got maybe 2,000-3,000 impressions. But from that, I probably had 4 or 5 or 6 different people all reach out who are interested in licensing the technology. And so it just goes to show that you don't have to have posts that get hundreds of thousands or millions of views to truly be impactful if you know what your end goal is. If you don't know what your end goal is, right, then you're just going to endlessly be frustrated because there's never going to be enough impressions, right? There's always going to be somebody who has more impressions just on a general scale. So,
and you can also, we've experimented with it just a little bit, but it's not the way to go for us, but you can pay to boost post on LinkedIn. So if all you want is impressions, you can just figure out the dollars, like how much that costs.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't do that for your model. Maybe it does work out. I think you wouldn't want to boost a post that wouldn't already do well organically.
Yes.
So I think the people who are really killing it with that do a bunch of posts. When one starts to take off, then they boost it because they already know it's good material. But if you're going to send a message out to a bunch of people, you would want to know that it resonates with people already. And for us, if we post it and it resonates, we're already there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that goes back to leaning into the things that are working, right? Because there is an element of chaos with social media where it's like it's really hard to put your finger on why certain posts do well and why others don't do well. And I think our philosophy has been we're not going to agonize over it. We're just going to keep trying different things and then just continue to hone in on the things that are working. And then when something does go well, we'll capitalize on that, right? And repost it or, create a different angle or boost it or whatever it might be to extend that reach a little bit more.
Yeah. And another part of our philosophy, I think, is just to succeed. So at BYU, President Reese talks about like be BYU, and that's kind of good advice all the way across life. Yeah. Like when you're on social media, it's your account, you're posting. You got to just be you.
Yes.
And so it's what really you don't like to see on LinkedIn is someone like posturing or being insincere or something. So post some personal stories if they portray you in a amusingly, embarrassing way or something. That's okay. Like just
Yeah,
Let
and be
people know who you
comfortable
are.
with that too,
Yeah.
right? Because nobody cares as much as you think they're going to. Right?
That's right.
That's almost always the case, right? Now, there's
Yeah.
probably some exception in there, as most things, but that's almost always the case, is that people are just not going to care as much as you think they're going to.
And people are we're naturally wired to be pretentious in some way. Like I realized in church, like serving in church, working with youth there, that the youth don't care if you tell the occasional dad joke or something. They know
Right.
that you're a person.
Yeah.
Like what would bother them is if you went around pretending that you had no flaws, that you were a perfect guy. Like that wouldn't resonate with them at all. But if you're a normal person who not every joke hits, that's okay.
Yeah.
And so same with all relations on LinkedIn. If you're posting stuff and some of it is, oh, there's Dave telling one of his cheeseball jokes, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and I think that that's also been proven in some of the interactions that we've had where, our responsibility is to post about BYU technology and to promote it and to license it and do all of those things. But honestly, some of the posts that I've posted recently have been asking for, insight into specific industries that maybe I don't have as much experience in, with technologies that foundationally look really good on paper, but have struggled to find that right fit. And I think that the response that we tend to get, not exclusively, but that we tend to get is, support and good advice and good introductions. And most people are human beings like we are, right? And they're not here to try to clown on you just because you posted something or you don't know every aspect of everything that's ever been invented, right? They're people just like you, and they want to support as much as they reasonably can with their limited time. So
on YouTube, sometimes on videos, we don't get a lot of engagement on YouTube, but sometimes you'll get crazy off the wall negative comments for some reason. On LinkedIn, I don't see that very much at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone will say, like, someone posted the other day and said, that's an AI image or whatever on a post. And what's funny about that is on LinkedIn, they tag your image of its AI. There's a
already identified.
Screaming AI button on there. So that was not a helpful comment, but it was just kind of off the wall. But there was one other technology one I did recently where some people said it was holography. I mentioned that in a different interview too, and they're like, well, that's not a true hologram. It's like, okay, technological purists, maybe I misstated that, but the people I was trying to talk to, the entrepreneurs, responded and knew what I was talking about.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway.
And I think that goes to kind of support why we've kind of honed in on LinkedIn specifically, because most other social media, I don't know, LinkedIn has a kind of air of professionalism, and I feel like it used to be kind of a negative thing, right? Where it was like, this is only for business. You can't post anything personal, right? You only connect with people that you know personally in real life. And that seems to be, those walls are kind of breaking down, I think, in a positive way, but not to the point where it's just, post only about yourself or your vacation or whatever it is. Like, it's still very business focused in kind of a cringy way sometimes, right? But I feel like that's where we've had our best success. I don't know, do you agree with that? Do you feel like we should expand, or I don't know, what are your thoughts?
No, I think I like the direction LinkedIn's gone. And the what still seems, there are things that seem wrong on LinkedIn that you see other places. Like when people post explicitly political things, I'm always like, go to a different platform. Or when people are very adversarial or insulting, it's like, that's not the place. But you don't see that too much. I have thought about, you could post all the same content basically on x.com or Instagram or someplace else. And maybe we will. I'm not ruling it out. But there, it's just you're posting to everything, to every type of person. And the reality is the workforce is a minority of the population. It's not most people. And so LinkedIn is a workforce app. And that's who we really need to connect with if we're doing work things.
Absolutely. And kind of a subset of that, right? The decision makers within the workforce who could make a decision about a license in our specific case, right? And so again, I think kind of the targeted approach and the targeted network building that you can have on LinkedIn has really lent itself well to our overall strategy for social posting. Yeah,
and there are other cool things that happen too. So one thing is, because we're putting ourselves out there, when you're at a meeting or a mingle event or something, you'll talk to someone, they'll say, hey, I saw your post about such and such. And so it gives you some interesting things to talk about. But then also, one of my favorite things lately, there have been a lot of times lately where I connect with someone on LinkedIn or they're commenting on my post or something, and then we're like, well, why don't we meet up in real life, So either in person or via Zoom or something. And that's cool. Like, just finding your people always is a fun experience. So I've had a good time with that.
Yeah, no, and it's been really cool that as as the network grows organically, as you continue to post about the things that are important to you and, support your end goals, that effect kind of has a knock-on effect, right? Where like the people that you're meeting and then having, in-person meetings with, they're introducing you to other people who are then connecting with you, who are extending the reach of your posts. And I mean, long term, again, our vision would be that every single technology that comes in, we can craft these types of LinkedIn posts or social media posts or podcasts or whatever it might be, post about it and get a dozen truly qualified, interested parties who are interested in turning that into a company. And I think it's mutually beneficial, right? Not only for BYU and the university and the work that we're doing, but also for the entrepreneurs who have the skills and ability to take these technologies to market, but just don't know that they exist and don't know what kind of deal they could secure from BYU to commercialize it.
Yeah, and the people on the other end of these communications for us, think about who they are. You're an entrepreneur. You just sold your business or exited, or finally the golden handcuffs period ended. You could leave the place you established. And so now you're like, oh, what am I going to do for my next thing? So naturally you cast around on LinkedIn. For people like that, you would want LinkedIn to be a steady stream of technology opportunities. Like, here's something you could do. Here's an opportunity you could do. And how great would it be as an entrepreneur if you just go there and there's your thing? And so we're a little bit of the solution. We're doing part of that.
Yeah, I think so. And that reminded me of the number of touch points that we have with people before they start engaging with us. It tends to be more than just like, okay, here's the one post, they see it, they're excited about it, and they reach out. It's more often that they've seen us post 3, 4, 5, 6 times, they've engaged with a couple posts, and then we finally hit on something that resonates with them, right, that speaks to them from on a personal level, and then they reach out with that interest about that specific technology. So
yeah, that's right.
That's been super interesting to see.
That's totally the case. Repeat interactions over time. And then one cool thing you can do, if you're doing LinkedIn Pro or whatever the premium is, you can put a newsletter link under your name.
That's right.
And so I've done that. So we have a tech transfer newsletter, and it's still growing. It's still early days, but we've done almost no promotion. So this is just people engaging and seeing the link and clicking and joining. So then there's this like super insiders group where we can communicate with, and they're going to volunteer to come judge something or just really interact with us.
Yeah, this hyper-focused group. And I feel like all of our outreach and marketing efforts have really built upon themselves. The podcast giving us content to post on LinkedIn, giving us content that drives people to the newsletter. And we now have kind of these pools or spheres of influence, I should say, that we can put content or events or invites out into them. And the right people that we would hope respond are responding to those types of content. Yeah,
and all this kind of goes to the issue of what is tech transfer. I think we did a good job of when we got the new crew in place. We had a turnover a couple of years ago, of going back to first principles and saying, what are we actually trying to do? And you nailed it. Like, we're trying to get these technologies that are academic inventions commercialized. And so that's what it is. And so some I've talked about it before, but some metaphors people will use is like, we're a factory churning these through, or we're a law firm or something like that.
Right.
But you should, if you're a tech transfer office, you should at least think that maybe what you are is a marketing agency or like a sales team. Like it should be a little bit more like that. And so I think being able to use social media this way helps us do that.
Yes, absolutely. And, and again, from my perspective, it tends to be the part of the process that can get glossed over, right? Because there's so many other important things in the process, securing the intellectual property, making sure that it's developed, lots and lots goes on there. But the marketing aspect, if you don't nail that, right, it's like generating this beautiful, work of art and then just kind of shoving it in the corner, right? It's still beautiful, it's still amazing, but if it's not in front of the people who are actually going to appreciate it, does it have as much value, if it was otherwise?
Yeah, and art is the right analogy.
Yeah,
because
we've talked about this a bunch of times. Yeah,
because technology in tech transfer is like a work of art. Each one's a unique thing. You only sell it once. So you can't like create a really good Facebook ad campaign and just run that thing day after day and sell more of these things. Each one of them is unique. And that's why that's another reason LinkedIn works so well, or YouTube, is because you can profile a specific one-of-a-kind item in a pretty complete way, without investing too much in resources and hopefully get in front of the right person.
Yeah, absolutely. Unique and appealing to different groups of people as well, right? Where not every piece of art that you see appeals to the same people. You can be standing next to somebody looking at the same thing and you might love it and they might hate it. And technology is a lot like that, right? Where we have that all the time, where we'll post about something and we'll have, a bunch of people say, this is the worst thing ever. I can't believe you would put this out here.
It'll never work.
The other group, right, saying this is amazing, right? This fits this specific need that I have in this industry. Can we talk? So that's also important to keep in mind, right? Not everything's going to be a home run, at least for every person, right?
Yeah.
So know who you're kind of talking to when you post.
Yeah, and to hedge our bets, we try to post technologies that are really close to market.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why, for me, for software, I want to post software that could be sold tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so that helps. Or for you, you'll get you'll have already thought through supply chain and manufacturing issues, so someone could just take this widget and start selling it.
And that's all kind of going on in the background, right? Where it's like the better that I can do in developing it and, getting quotes from manufacturers and having it ready to serve up to somebody and deliver them that story, then it reduces all the friction on the backside and honestly the time, right? Like sometimes you can go back and forth in a negotiation for months because they're just not confident that you can actually deliver on the technology. Whereas if they reach out and you can say, oh yeah, here's the quote from the manufacturer, here's your bill of material costs, I'm thinking engineering devices specifically, but you remove kind of all that friction that goes into it. And you can close the deal, hand over the technology, and move on to the next one, which is always really nice. Yeah.
I guess that's one other piece, that all of this, having a social media platform, getting things out there, only works if you can execute deals really, really well.
Yeah.
And so I remember back in 2014 or so, there was a deal where I met the guy, we negotiated the thing, we closed the deal, and it all happened within 4 weeks. And so at the time, I was like, this is amazing that you can do a transaction that fast, because traditionally it's months and months to do something. But now I would say that's pretty well the norm. Like if you want a technology from us, 3 weeks from now, it can be yours, like owned by you, and you're commercializing it.
Yeah.
And so we've got that back end part of it worked out.
Yes.
So we have something to market that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think getting some of those back end things worked out has allowed us to focus on the marketing in a way that maybe other offices haven't in the past, right? Because it was so difficult to negotiate a deal, right? It took you months and months to go back and forth and negotiate language. And for the most part, I feel like we have that really well streamlined at this point.
Yeah. It's like any process, whatever you're doing, whatever industry you're in, you've got to ask yourself all day long, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Does this need to be done? Does this need to be done?
Yeah.
And just get rid of all the junk.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, we talked about a lot of different things. Any other kind of final thoughts that you have for the audience? I feel like this episode, we talked a lot about tech transfer specifically. I feel like this is very tech transfer focused, as far as the audience. But with some of the conferences and the interactions that we've had lately, I feel like there's a need within our own industry to talk about this and talk about not necessarily best practices, but best approaches, right? How do you approach this when you're starting from square one? So any additional thoughts that you feel like are relevant or worth sharing?
No, that's totally true. And I've had a number of conversations, people reaching out lately to ask us about these sorts of things. Yeah. So hopefully this is a good resource. But the bottom line is we just can't be so precious and so dignified. You know, like we got to take some marketing risk just a little bit and put ourselves out there. And we can do it in a dignified way. Like LinkedIn is maybe the ideal platform to do it on. But go ahead and experiment with things. Obviously, we're open to talking with people as well. So if you have questions, here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And my one thought is always like, do something, right? Like don't think about it too much. Just put something, either on paper or type it in or generate the image or go take a picture and do something, because the results and the data that you get from that are going to be worth way more than agonizing over the details before you get started.
Yeah, tech transfer comes from the world of Bayh-Dole and patents and these very regulated, formal, bureaucratic processes. But once you're past those things, we're just in business land here. And it's like Chris Kerner says, you can just do things.
Yes,
so just do things.
Yes, there is no content police, right? Like you can just do things and let the results speak for themselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.